So AMD reports earnings after the market closed on Tuesday. Unfortunately, Intel last week pretty much made it seem like the semiconductor market was over. They saw a decrease in consumer market. They also saw a decrease in the data center market, which is the bullish points many semiconductor investors are making at the moment. Personally, I'm not, and these are the 5 things I'm watching this upcoming earnings. How well are they doing in the consumer market? How well are they doing in the data center market? Do they have any delays for their upcoming products? Their Xilinx acquisition and how they're integrating everything together, and more importantly, the outlook they have for the rest of the year. The one I'm paying the most attention to will be that data center market, as we saw Intel was down a nice amount. But one of the reasons was competitive pressure, and I do believe that competitive pressure was AMD. So let's get started with today's episode.
I do want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out fool.com/Jose to get the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
Alright, so first let's take a closer look at price action. Today seems to be a very bullish day, especially for tech companies. We can see AMD is up 3.1% as I am recording. Unfortunately, from its 52-week high, the stock is down 39%. If we take a closer look at Intel, even Intel is up about 2.2% as I am recording, but we can see from its 52-week high, the stock is down roughly 33.7%. Like I mentioned, AMD is expected to report their earnings after the market closes on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2020. For those not familiar, this is actually going to be the first quarter AMD kind of puts data center into its own revenue segment. Previously, it was posted in this enterprise and semi-custom revenue segment, but now they are going to do it individually so we can see how much growth that AMD EPYC server processor is really getting. First, let's start off with Intel and their consumer market and see what we can expect maybe from AMD. So for their most recent earnings, Intel reported a 25% decrease in their client computer market. I do want to jump back a quarter ago to quarter 1 of 2022. Their revenue in this market was also down 13%, where AMD in their consumer market, they were actually up 33% last quarter. So we can see even though they're both hitting the semiconductor markets, they both are not showing what exactly the market is saying. If last quarter Intel saw a decline in the consumer market, but AMD saw a huge growth, it kind of tells us that they're in different playing fields at the moment. But I do want to say Intel mentioned one of the biggest reasons for the drop this quarter in the consumer market was the decrease in PC shipments. And we have talked about a report that showed the PC market shipments were down 15% in quarter 2. So I do expect a slowdown in the consumer market for AMD. I do not expect it to be a decline of 25%, which is what we saw for Intel. And if you're liking the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up. It helps so much with overall exposing the channel to new audience. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to sign up with my link at fool.com/Jose. Next, let's take a closer look at their data center market. Intel reported a 16% decline here. Last quarter was a bit different for Intel, where they actually saw 22% growth in the data center market. But if we take a closer look at AMD, they mentioned this portion of semi-custom and enterprise revenue was up 88% year over year. Obviously, they've had push with their PS5 and the Xbox X console, which have helped this revenue segment, but they did mention that a huge growth was due to the AMD EPYC server processors. During the most recent earnings, one of the reasons Intel lost in the data center market was because of competitive pressure. I do believe that competitive pressure was AMD, and I do want to say, even though there might be a slowdown in the data center market for AMD as well, I actually expect them to see a revenue growth in this segment for this upcoming quarter. The next thing that I want to take a closer look at is to see if there's any delays in the new products that AMD is releasing. Luckily for AMD investors, Intel actually had to delay their server 4th generation processor a little bit more because of some fixes they had to implement. Originally, both AMD and Intel were expected to release their 4th generation of server CPUs at the same time. Intel was going to be Sapphire Lakes, and AMD was going to be Genoa. Now with the delay, AMD's Genoa, if there's no delay for them, is going to come out earlier, and who knows, might overall help increase the market share. So we have to make sure there are no delay in those products. AMD and Intel are also both releasing new generations of their consumer processors, so we want to make sure that there's no delays in there because we want to keep that competitive advantage with Intel. The fourth point is I want to see how its Xilinx acquisition is helping the overall company. This is actually going to be the first quarter where Xilinx is in there for the full quarter. The previous quarter, Xilinx was only there for a few weeks, and obviously Xilinx is helping AMD enter numerous markets like the automotive, like the FPGAs, accelerators, and so much more. So I want to see how AMD and Xilinx are integrating their solutions and what kind of growth they're seeing as a team. I do want to say the final thing, and what probably a lot of investors are going to be watching, is their overall guidance. How is the overall consumer market looking now for the second half of the year? How is the data center market looking as well for the second half of the year? I do want to say the outlook is going to play the most important part for the actual stock price at the end of the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time. So those are the few things I'm watching for this earnings, but if you are curious on what stocks I'm watching this week for potential purchase, make sure to check out this video above.